Picture this. You're a doctor. It's the middle of the night. You're sitting in a muddy cave in northern Thailand. Outside, there are thousands of soldiers, cameras from every major news network on the planet, and the eyes of the world watching. Inside the cave, trapped in the dark 2.5 kilometers underground, are 13 kids and their soccer coach. They're alive, but just barely. And someone just asked you to do something that has never been done in the history of medicine. Sedate 12 terrified children, then strap scuba tanks to their unconscious bodies, then dive them through kilometers of flooded cave tunnels to safety. You don't think it'll work. In fact, you're pretty sure they'll all die in the process, and their deaths will be on your hands. What do you do? That's exactly the situation Dr. Richard Harris found himself in during the 2018 Thai cave rescue, one of the most watched events in modern history. And what he did that day, and the philosophy that drove him to do it, is what this entire book is about. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just about extreme adventure. It's about why risk is one of the most important things missing from modern life, and how learning to embrace it, thoughtfully and deliberately, might just be what makes your life feel truly worth living. Let's start where the book starts, with the moment that made the world know Harry's name. It's June 2018. A youth soccer team in Thailand, the Wild Boars, went exploring in a cave called Tom Luang and got trapped by flash flooding. 12 boys and their coach, 14 days in total darkness with no food, drinking cave water. Harry is an anesthesiast, basically a doctor who puts people to sleep safely for surgery. He's also a passionate cave diver with decades of experience. When word spread through the small, tight-knit cave diving community, Harry and his best friend and dive buddy, Craig Challen, got on a plane to Thailand. The cave was a nightmare. 2.5 kilometers of flooded tunnels. The Thai Navy SEALs couldn't get through. Even elite military divers from the US couldn't make it to the kids. The only people who could were a small group of middle-aged recreational cave divers, including Harry. Here was the problem. Even if you could reach the boys, there was no way to get them out safely. Children with no diving experience would panic underwater. They'd drown themselves and probably take the rescuers with them. A fellow diver, Rick Stanton, came up with an idea. What if they sedated the kids, knocked them out cold, dressed them in wetsuits and full-face masks, and strapped oxygen tanks to their fronts and floated their unconscious bodies through the tunnels? Harry's first reaction? Absolutely not. He could think of a dozen ways a child could die. The airway could get blocked. They could drown in their own saliva. The sedation could wear off mid-tunnel. His wife, also a doctor, just laughed when he described the plan. She called it ludicrous. But Rick said something to Harry that changed everything. He told him plainly, "If you won't do this, those kids will almost certainly die in that cave." That was it. Harry made his decision. He came up with a drug combination. An anti-anxiety pill first to calm the boys, then injections to put them to sleep. He trained the other divers to redose them if they started waking up during the 3-hour journey through the tunnels. He told the Thai government the truth. Nobody had ever done this before. Both choices were terrible, but one was worse than the other. The night before the first rescue, Harry called his wife. "I don't think it's going to work," he admitted. "I think they're going to drown under anesthetic." He barely slept. The next morning, he dressed the first boy in a wetsuit. He gave him the injections, watched the boy's eyes slowly close. Then he pushed an unconscious child underwater. He described it as one of the most deeply wrong-feeling things he had ever done in his life. Every instinct in his body screaming at him to stop. But he did it. 4 boys came out on day 1, all of them alive. 4 more on day 2, all alive. On the final day, the last boys and their coach made it out, all 13, every single one. When Harry finally surfaced from his last dive, exhausted, running on pure adrenaline, he called his wife. He talked for 10 minutes straight. Then she burst into tears and told him his father had died, right around the time the final boy was being carried out. Harry sat on the edge of a hotel bed and sobbed. The greatest day of his life and the worst folded together in a single moment. He chose to stay in Thailand. He celebrated. He grieved his father the way his dad would have wanted, with a party a bottle of whiskey, and gratitude for a life well lived. Quality, not quantity, was a phrase his father believed deeply, and that night, both deaths and lives lived fully were honored. So what does the Thai cave rescue have to do with your life? Everything, actually. Harry isn't writing this book to say you should go cave diving. He's writing it because after that rescue, as he began speaking around the world, he kept running into a problem. The world, he says, has become obsessed with safety. Children aren't allowed to scrape their knees. Parents hover. Adventure has been scheduled and sanitized. And Harry believes this is causing genuine harm, not just physical softness, but a kind of spiritual hollowness. He believes every human being has a deep biological need for risk. We evolved in dangerous environments. Our brains were built to navigate threat, solve life or death problems, and push boundaries. When you remove all of that, when life becomes entirely comfortable and predictable, something essential in a person starts to wither. To explore this idea, Harry started a podcast called Real Risk. He interviewed extreme athletes, adventurers, soldiers, foreign correspondents, and people who had survived things that should have killed them. He wanted to know what drives people to risk their lives, and what does it teach them. This book is the result of all those conversations. And what he found surprised even him. Let's meet some of the extraordinary people Harry interviewed, because their stories are the heart of this book. Alex Honnold, the free solo climber. Alex Honnold famously climbed El Capitan, a 3,000-foot vertical granite wall in Yosemite, completely alone, with no rope, no harness, nothing. If he made a single mistake, he would fall and die. It's captured in the Oscar-winning documentary Free Solo, which Harry calls one of the scariest movies he's ever seen. You'd expect someone like Alex to be fearless by nature, but that's not what Harry found when he talked to him. Alex doesn't think he's naturally gifted. He doesn't have a death wish. He's not an adrenaline junkie. He's someone who prepared, obsessively, methodically, over years, until the route felt completely familiar. He'd visualized every single move hundreds of times before he ever attempted it without a rope. His superpower, as Alex himself puts it, is just clear thinking and diligent practice. That's it. James Cameron, the filmmaker who dives to the bottom of the ocean. You know James Cameron from Titanic and Avatar, but Harry knows him as one of the world's most serious deep-sea explorers. Cameron made Titanic largely because he wanted an excuse to dive the Titanic. He's visited hydrothermal vents in the deepest parts of the ocean. In 2012, he became the first person in 50 years to dive to the very bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth, alone, in a custom-built submarine the size of a closet. Was he terrified? Not really. He'd spent 7 years designing and testing that submarine. He and his team had worked through every single failure scenario they could imagine and engineered against each one. He trusted his preparation. He told Harry something that stuck. It doesn't make you reckless, but it does put you in a certain class of people who are willing to take what most would consider extraordinary risks and go through extraordinary steps to mitigate them. Maya Gabeira, the big wave surfer. Maya Gabeira became the first woman to seriously compete in big wave surfing at a time when women simply weren't doing it. She rode waves the height of office buildings at a place called Nazaré in Portugal, where the waves can reach 30 meters, the height of a 10-story building. In 2013, she nearly drowned. She was caught by a wave, held underwater for 9 minutes, had her leg broken, her spine damaged, and had to be resuscitated on the beach. Doctors told her she'd never surf big waves again. She was back on those waves within 4 years, and she eventually set the world record, the biggest wave ever surfed by any woman. What drove her? She told Harry, "I was 26 years old, and I had already experienced what it is like to die. That to me was like a gift from God. He showed me how precious life was." Chris Lemons, the man who died and came back. This might be the most extraordinary story in the entire book. Chris Lemons is a saturation diver, someone who works on the bottom of the ocean, repairing oil rigs at depths of 90 meters or more. He lives in a pressurized chamber on a ship for weeks at a time to avoid decompression sickness. One night, in 2012, a freak computer failure caused his ship to lose all power and drift away in a North Sea storm while Chris was still on the seabed, tethered to the ship by his umbilical cord. The cord snapped. His life support system cut out. He was 90 meters underwater, in complete darkness, alone. He had maybe 8 minutes of emergency air. There was no way to reach him in time. He lay down on the seafloor, curled into the fetal position, said sorry to his fiancée out loud into the dark water, and waited to die. His rescuers found him 15 minutes later. He was unconscious, blue, not breathing. They gave him air. He started breathing again. He had no brain damage, no lasting physical injury. Nobody, not even the world's leading hyperbaric medicine experts, can fully explain how he survived. 3 weeks later, Chris signed up to go back down and finish the job. Sean Chuma, the base jumper who hates adrenaline. Harry expected Sean, who jumps off buildings and cliffs in a wingsuit, to be the most cowboy, gung-ho person he'd spoken to. He was surprised to find the exact opposite. Sean told Harry he hates adrenaline. If his body is producing adrenaline, it means something has gone wrong. The goal in base jumping isn't the thrill, it's the flow state, the perfect execution, the complete mental clarity when everything goes right. And Sean has a simple rule for survival. He always reserves the right to walk away. He's turned back from jumps because something felt slightly off. Wind, visibility, a feeling he couldn't explain. That willingness to back down, even after months of preparation, is what has kept him alive. Matt Hall, the fighter pilot who became an air race champion. Matt flies customized race planes through tight obstacle courses just 10 meters off the ground at speeds of 370 kilometers per hour. He became the Red Bull Air Race World Champion. He told Harry he hates adrenaline too. When he's at his best in a race, he feels no adrenaline at all, just total focus, a state where every decision is automatic from thousands of hours of practice. The goal is mastery, not excitement. His best advice? Avoid complacency. The most dangerous moment isn't when you're scared. It's when you've done something 1,000 times and you stop respecting it. Running through all these stories is a fascinating science. Harry explores why some people are drawn to risk and why it seems to make their lives richer, while for others, the same risks bring disaster. Professor Bill von Hippel, an evolutionary psychologist Harry spoke with, explains it this way. Human beings evolved in environments where risk was unavoidable. Our brains developed to seek challenge, manage danger, and reward us with powerful positive feelings when we succeeded. The problem is that modern life has removed most genuine physical risk, and our brains haven't caught up. When there's nothing real to fear, we start fearing abstract things instead. Social media, other people's opinions, the news cycle. The threat response that was designed to help us fight off a predator is now misfiring on email stress. But here's what's remarkable. When people intentionally expose themselves to real, manageable risk, cold water, difficult climbs, challenging sports, anxiety often decreases. The nervous system gets recalibrated. Life's small problems feel smaller by comparison. Harry talks about the concept of the stretch zone. There's your comfort zone, familiar, easy, safe. Then there's the panic zone, overwhelming danger you're not prepared for. In between is the stretch zone, slightly outside your comfort zone, challenging enough to require focus, but manageable with preparation. Every single person in this book got extraordinary by spending time in the stretch zone, not by jumping into the deep end unprepared, incrementally, consistently, over years. The rule of panic. One of the most important ideas in the book is this: panic kills. In cave diving, it's the leading cause of death, not equipment failure, not difficult conditions, panic. The moment a diver loses their mental composure, they're in mortal danger. Harry shares a personal story. Early in his career, he got trapped in a cave in Vanuatu. He'd squeeze through a tight restriction and then couldn't get back through. The silt had clouded the water. He couldn't see. He was alone. He felt the panic begin to rise in his body, physical, overwhelming. He calculated he was about 10 seconds from total panic, and in that situation, total panic meant death. He remembered a story from a friend who'd been in a similar situation and used a technique, counting down from 10, slowly, deliberately, telling yourself that by 0, you'll be calm. Harry tried it. By 5, his breathing had slowed. By 0, he could think clearly. He solved the problem. He got out. He's used that technique several more times since. The grief that comes with risk. This book doesn't pretend risk is all glory. Harry is honest about loss. His friend, Agnes Milovka, was one of the most talented cave divers in the world. Young, fearless, brilliant. She was pushing into unexplored cave passages alone, breaking the cardinal rule of never diving solo. And one day, she didn't come back out. Harry was the one who found her body. He spent 3 days carefully excavating the cave to retrieve her. When he finally brought her out and handed her to the police on the surface, he crumpled to the grass and sobbed. Agnes died doing what she loved, yes, but Harry doesn't glamorize that. He says directly that she was young and reckless, and that youth and fearlessness without patience is a dangerous combination. The lesson isn't to be fearless, it's to be prepared. The final section of the book deals with something just as powerful as risk itself. What happens when things go badly wrong? Not just in adventures, but in life. Heath Jameson, shot in the spine. Heath was an Australian soldier in Afghanistan. During a battle, a bullet hit him in the back of the neck and shattered vertebrae in his spine. He should have died. He should have been paralyzed. By rights, he should have spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair. He decided not to. Within days of waking up in hospital, he was insisting on walking to the toilet himself. Stubborn, determined, refusing to be defined by his injury. He relearned to walk. He relearned to read. He got his helicopter pilot's license after a doctor laughed and told him he never would. He became a polar expedition guide, leading treks across Antarctica and the Arctic. When asked how he coped, Heath had a simple philosophy. Complaining doesn't help. Comparing your suffering to others and choosing to keep going does. He told Harry one simple thing on a bush trek that changed Harry's perspective forever. Harry mentioned his back was sore. Heath looked at him and said, "How did it help you to tell me that? Did it make your back feel better? Did it make mine feel better?" It didn't. Harry never complained about a sore back again. James Scott, lost in the Himalayas for 43 days. James was a medical student in his early 20s when he got lost in a blizzard in Nepal. He had minimal gear, no food, and no way to contact the outside world. He survived for 43 days in the Himalayan winter, eating nothing, melting snow for water, keeping his mind intact through his martial arts training. He survived by deciding to survive, by making small goals, by finding beauty in tiny moments, the way the sun melted snow into clear water, by comparing his suffering to prisoners of war who had it far worse and choosing to keep going. Gil Hicks, surviving the London bombings. Gil was on the underground in London on 7 July 2005 when a bomb exploded in her carriage. She lost both legs. She lost so much blood that emergency responders had already prepared to declare her dead. She came back. She became a peace activist, traveling the world to meet with people involved in terrorism and conflict, not out of bitterness, but out of a deep conviction that connection and understanding are the only things that stop people from doing terrible things to each other. Her message, which Harry deeply values, the opposite of fear and hatred isn't safety, it's love. It's choosing deliberately to reach across to the other side. So what does all of this add up to? What is Dr. Richard Harris actually trying to tell us? Here are the big ideas. 1. Risk is not the enemy of a good life. It's a necessary ingredient of one. Not reckless, unplanned risk, but thoughtful, deliberate, expanding risk. The kind that pulls you out of your comfort zone and into your stretch zone. 2. Every extraordinary person in this book got that way gradually, through consistent practice, honest preparation, and the willingness to keep showing up. Nobody woke up one morning and was Alex Honnold. They became Alex Honnold over decades of incremental challenge. 3. Panic is the real killer, not danger itself. The ability to stay calm, think clearly, and act deliberately when everything is screaming at you to lose control, that is the single most important skill a person can develop. And it's a skill. It can be practiced. 4. Resilience isn't something you either have or you don't. It's built through exposure, to discomfort, to failure, to genuine challenge. That's why Harry worries about children growing up in risk-free bubbles. They're not being protected. They're being deprived of the very experiences that build the psychological strength they'll need. 5. Adventure doesn't require a cave or a wingsuit or a 10-story wave. Adventure is anything that pulls you toward the edge of what you know and asks you to take one more step. For some people, that's a difficult conversation, a new career, or learning to swim at 50. The scale doesn't matter. The choice to step forward does. Harry ends the book with a quiet, beautiful thought. He says he tries to live his life the same way he approaches his diving. Sometimes it's difficult. Occasionally it's terrifying, but it's always worth it. Because you never know what you'll find around the corner if you push the boundary just a little bit further. The greatest risk of all, he says, is never finding out. I believe that a life without adventure and risk is a waste. The greatest risk most people will ever face is letting their lives pass them by. If this summary resonated with you, I really encourage you to go and buy the full book, The Art of Risk by Dr. Richard Harris. I promise you it is worth every penny. Harry is a brilliant storyteller, warm, funny, and deeply moving. The full stories of Chris Lamons, Agnes Malavka, and the Thai cave rescue are things you simply won't forget. There is so much more detail, so many more incredible moments that I couldn't fit into this video. So do yourself a favor, grab a copy, sit down with it, and let it change the way you think about your own life. Now, if you got value from this video, please hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who could use these ideas. And if you don't want to miss the next book summary, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. We drop new videos every week. If you know someone who needs a little push to step outside their comfort zone, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.